Dr. Tom Roselle live right now, 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Welcome to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. I'm live in studio. It's gorgeous outside. Get yourself outside. After my program, make sure you listen for the next hour, but then get outside. The wind is gone. The day is beautiful, and it's absolutely stunning. But you know what? Right now, we're here for you. If you've had a problem and you don't know what to do about it, you've tried, you applied, this is your opportunity to find out how to do it without drugs, without surgery. Give me a call, 888-630-9625. Love to talk to you on any subject you have in mind. We're going to talk about a lot of different things today. I have a tremendous amount of information. Like I said, every week I read and my brain just kind of goes in a lot of different directions. It's a really good thing that I'm a little ADD because I can handle multiple things at one time and then give you the information. By the way, I want to start out by thanking so many of you who participated in the Roselle Center for Healing Have a Heart Week. It was an outstanding success, and we were able to give money and food for others. Again, I appreciate it. We're going to give them a check for $5,000 plus all of the food that was collected, and it was a tremendous amount of food. Thank you again so very, very, very much. 888-630-9625. It's been a great week. I've had a couple patients bring some information to me. They wanted to know my opinion because I'm always talking to you about be careful what's behind the screen. Watch the man behind the screen and what they're doing. You know, we are, as a society, manipulated because of other people's intentions. Unfortunately, sometimes it has to do with their pocketbooks. And there were some interesting articles that I want to share with you relative to the FDA and drug companies and the like. Remember I said that approximately $30 billion a year is spent on drug advertising, and of that, $8 to $9 billion are spent annually on their companies trying to get you to call your docs and find out what the drug's all about and if it's right in your life. You've seen the advertising where it says, call your physicians today and see if whatever the drug is right for you. Well, you may not even have the problem, but the ads are done so well that you feel guilty if you don't call them up. However, that other $20 billion to $21 to $22 billion is directly related to enticing physicians to use the medication. And we want to talk about that a little bit today because the jury's out, guys. These, in our society, we talk about the mandate for transparency. Well, it should happen in the healthcare area, probably, in my opinion, far more commonly than it does. And I want to fill you in on some data, things that you can use. As far as I'm concerned, there are definite flaws with the way the FDA operates, and I want to let you know that there are some things that are out there that are kind of behind the door. The reason that so many drugs approved by the FDA later turn out to be dangerous or ineffective is inherently, it's, in my opinion, a very corrupt cooperation that exists between the drug companies and the FDA. And I'm going to give you some reasons why, and there are many more than these, but these are kind of straight up. The FDA panel members are part-time employees and cannot perform with optimal due diligence to review new drugs and so forth. They have a panel. They're set up. And these guys, I'm going to tell you in a few minutes where they come from, but they're not there to review on a day-to-day basis. You have researchers. They're really good people that work for the FDA, and, a lot of the information that they get never makes it out to you, never makes it to the news. Well, the things I'm going to tell you about really are important. Because of that, drugs or devices are rejected sometimes and approved inappropriately. So you have to be careful. You become the guinea pig. Well, let's get it out there. It kind of meets the standards, and we're going to see what happens over the next 3 to 4 to 5 to 10 years. And all of a sudden, the cancer rates, the blood pressure, the other disease processes start streaming back. It's important that you're aware that often you become the laboratory testing material. The FDA panel members receive a significant portion of income from drug research in their institutions funded by pharmaceutical company whose product may be up for review. That presents an interesting situation. It's a flagrant conflict of interest. It's like, the wolves in the chicken house. That's true stuff. This is not some some far-fetched stuff I'm making up. Drug approvals or rejections are often based on financial bias and not the underlying science. There's an agenda out there. That's why you have patenting rights. That's why they grab these things. They get them out there well before the consequences are well known. Subsequently, you become the problem. The FDA panel members are paid by pharmaceutical companies to make presentations at conferences at National Society meetings. I mean, come on. Where does it stop? Where does, finally say, hey, I'm done. There's a problem here. This is not only a conflict of interest, but it also influences the decision-making of the related approval of these prescriptions drugs. And it's an awful, awful, awful situation. Vitamin E just came up into the news today, and I want to tell you a little something about it. And here's the deal. Many of my patients, and I've told them over the years that there's natural forms of vitamins and there are synthetic forms of vitamins. And vitamin E is one of those things that stands out very straight up, and here's why. Regular vitamin E, no matter what you heard, is a good-for-you vitamin. You got to have it in your diet. You can't not have it, otherwise tissue doesn't heal well, and it's also a very significant antioxidant. But when you get a synthetic form of vitamin E, you're going to increase your risk of certain types of cancers. Guys, prostate cancer increases with the utilization of a synthetic form of vitamin E. So go to your bottles, check the bottles. I'm going to tell you how you find out. If you look on the backside under ingredients, vitamin E looks like this. It's D-alpha tocopherol. And now there are many types of tocopherols. There's a mixed tocopherol form, there's an alpha tocopherol form, there's a beta tocopherol form, and so forth. And we could spend the whole program talking about the different types of vitamin E. But what I want you to look for, D like David, next to the D, if there's the letter L, like Louis, D-L tocopherol, that's a synthetic form, no matter what anybody tells you. You want to see D-alpha tocopherol without the letter L, without the Louis in between them. Stay away from the synthetic. It doesn't work. Not only doesn't it work, but it has a significant effect in body chemistry, increasing your risk of certain types of cancers. The information is out there. It is quite significant, and to ignore it, you do so at your own folly. One of the things that we talk about in our practice is the use of psychogenic drugs as they relate to actually how they don't work. And so what I want you to know about these things is that the side effects of psychogenics are so significant and so well hidden that you have to do your own homework, and I'm going to help you do your homework on this. Pfizer is one of the worst guys out there, and because they've recently been found to conceal the side effects of a certain drug that they have been putting on the market. And side effects of many of the FDA-approved drugs on the market today is the FDA's responsibility to point out to you. But unfortunately what happens is it dramatically increases the risk of many things, but in psychogenics it increases the risk of suicide. So here's the deal. For those of you who don't know, suicide is the 8th leading cause of death between persons 55 to 64 of age in the United States, and depression is the leading underlying medical cause of suicide. Interesting, right? Well, the fact that many antidepressant drugs now require a black box warning right on the label, and what that black box warning says is that the use of this medication increases your risk of suicide. So depression increases your risk of suicide, so you take something now to get rid of the depression, and that dramatically increases your risk of suicide. Why don't we just hand the patient a gun with full chambers and say, pull the trigger? It'll get rid of the depression really quickly. The drug's going to do it anyway, in my opinion. So you got to be very careful. There are many other natural ways of handling depression, and we're going to talk about that today as we go through the program. Many users of antidepressant drugs report that they feel more depressed. So how does that work? And if you're around age 18 to 19 or younger and you're taking antipsychotics, you got a problem because it dramatically steps up. Now, we talked about Pfizer. Chantix is the brand name of a drug made by Pfizer, and it's approved by the FDA to help people stop smoking. Well, Chantix works by altering brain chemistry to reduce nicotine craving. And the problem is that Chantix dramatically increases the risk of suicide or physical damage, along with other psychological impairments. But it's a drug that, listen, if you got hooked on the cigarette habit, there's ways of doing it. Acupuncture can significantly decrease your craving. There are homeopathics that will do it. You can get off the stuff. The problem is that Chantix, even if you use it and it does work, the recidivism, going back to smoke again, is no different than anything else. Chantix was described as causing twice as many reported fatalities as any other drug being used. And this goes back to some research that was done by Thomas J. Moore. He's an official at the Nonprofit Institute for Safe Medical Practices, and stated directly, we've had a major breakdown in safety surveillance, meaning we're putting this stuff out on the marketplace without even thinking about it. Let's go to the phones. Gene, how can I help you?
How you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself, sir?
I got two quickies.
Yes, sir.
About a year ago, about every year I go in and the doctor does the blood work. I'm 64 years old.
Okay.
So one of the things that comes back is that the figure for vitamin D for me is low.
What's your number? Do you know?
Is the number he wants it above 30 or something?
Yes, it should be well above 30, actually.
Okay, well, my last time it was like 32.
Okay.
So he put me on once a week prescription.
50,000 units?
Of vitamin D.
Yeah, 50,000 units?
So, yeah, I don't know what it is, to tell you the truth. I haven't looked.
Okay.
But are you an advocate of that?
No, but go ahead.
Okay.
I'll get to that in a second.
No, well, the second question has to do with I'm on a statin drug. I don't know if it's Provocol, Provastatin.
Okay.
And somebody said don't eat grapefruits or drink grapefruit juice.
Okay.
Those are two questions.
So there's a couple of things that you can do. First of all, let's talk about the vitamin D. Anything under 50 is considered insufficient in functional medicine. Anything 32 or less is considered deficient. Okay. When you give vitamin D at a high level, meaning 50,000 units all at one time, because it's a fat-soluble vitamin, can cause problems with liver function. And so when we deal with our patients, we give them anywhere when we try to bring it up 6 to 8 to 10 to 12,000 units a day, divided over the period of the day, and then within 100 days of starting that regime, we redo the blood test to make sure that it's within normal limits. Your target range where you want to get is 70 to 75. 80 to 85 is even great. Your top range is at 100, but you don't want to get into that neighborhood. At 70, 75, 80, now you have really good immune function, as well as maintaining bone density and anti-carcinogenic and so forth. But I don't like the utilization of that much vitamin D. And the problem is that most physicians use that they're good hearts. They're trying to, follow protocols. But the bottom line is it doesn't work really well.
What can I do other than pills to get my vitamin D up?
Well, there are pills. You can go to a good natural food store. You could go to Wegmans Apothecary. You can go to Whole Foods. You can go to Mom's. You can go to Trader Joe's and ask them to give you a natural form, an organic form of vitamin D, around 2,000 units. And at your level, you probably want to take 8 to 10,000 units a day, but make sure that in 90 days to 100 days that you go have that lab work redone. If your blood chemistry comes up to 60, 65, then cut the dosage down to where you're taking about 4,000 units a day as a supportive basis, but periodically you redo the test again. So that's how you handle that. Your body can handle lower dosages, but it can't handle that big shot all at one time. And then continue that. It's so
there's no natural food consumption that'll boost it. There
is, but you're not going to get enough of it. And in this area, sunlight is the best stimulator, but between September 1st and May 1st, the rays of the sun are in such an angle that it doesn't stimulate the skin receptors to produce the adequate levels that you need. And you really need about 20,000 units a day from all sources, means sun and diet and so forth and so on. Welcome back. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. We're here at 888-630-9625. That's 888-630. WMAL. Love to talk to you on any subject you have in mind. We're talking about drugs and kind of the behind-the-scenes manipulation of drug companies and why they do what they do and why they got you suckered into some of the drugs that you're taking. And in my opinion, they're hurting you, folks, and you have to really step up to the plate and take control of your own life. By the way, the title of my book. Ageless Health. Health is a do-it-yourself program, and it is a do-it-yourself program. It is in your hands, and I want you to understand that. Nobody else controls your life but you, but problem is you got to get educated to get it done. The information's there. You just got to go after it. Gene, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's talk about statins for a second as quickly as we can. Statins are used in the marketplace to lower cholesterol. Now, the thing that you have to understand that we've talked about repetitively over time is that cholesterol is a problem that has to do with, plaquing of cholesterol has to do with inflammation. It doesn't have to do necessarily with the levels of cholesterol. You can have a high level of cholesterol, a relatively high level, and a very, very low level of inflammation in the body, and you won't plaque. Conversely, if you have a very high level of inflammation due to many different things and a relatively normal cholesterol level, you're going to plaque like crazy. So set that aside. Statins have tremendous side effects. They increase the risk of cancer, particularly liver function cancer. They decrease the absorption of all kinds of nutrients. In addition to that, they deplete something called coenzyme Q10. So there are things that can be done are far more effective than using a statin, whether it's using low levels of niacin and fish oils and changing the diet and just walking on a regular basis dramatically shift that application. So what I would suggest to you is that that you kind of take a look at what your dietary patterns, your lifestyle is, and ask yourself the question if the risk of taking the statin is worth it. Now, there's a statistic that I'd like to quote because it came out of the New England Journal of Medicine, is simply this. You can take 100 guys that have high cholesterol and treat them for 5 years with a statin, and you're going to save 1 heart attack. So the effectiveness rate of using a statin when it comes to myocardial infarction and clotting and so forth is very, very insignificant. So that's the data, my friend. If I can help you, write me at rosellecare.com. I'll be more than happy to continue to answer your questions. Gene, thank you very much for your call. 888-630-9625. Like to encourage you, go to the computer and go to RoselleRadio.com, and we've started to add a few more things to the site, like you can actually see the radio program. We're putting snippets in there, 8 to 10 minute segments on some of the most important things that we're talking about, and you'll see me do my thing behind the microphone live instead of just hearing my voice. But Roselle Radio has archived all the shows, and we're trying to line them up for you so you can go and you can look under cardiovascular problems, back pain, migraines, allergy reactions, and so forth and so on. So take a visit. Also go to rosellecare.com, ROSELLECARE.com, and that takes you directly to our website. But right now, sitting there, the first 3 up for you on Roselle Radio's autoimmune diseases, and then a special presentation that you're going to see me live there, then GERD, and then so forth. There's a tremendous amount of data there. Go visit, and also follow us on Facebook because I blog there on a regular basis. We're trying to bring it all into one area so you can see it. Getting back to what we were talking about, in the next half of the show, we're going to talk about drugs and their effect and things that you can do instead of, and I think you're going to find it very fascinating. Johnson & Johnson just settled a bribery complaint for $70 million. It was reported in the New York Times last year, 2011. Pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson admitted to bribing European doctors and agreed to pay $70 million in civil and criminal penalties. The bribes were ridiculous. There's a copy of the internal company email that was stated that cash incentives to surgeons is common knowledge in Greece, and that once a company stops paying bribes, we'd lose 95% of our business by the end of the year. That means, remember, that's why I told you that $20 billion a year is spent in this country. I mean, this is true stuff. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC director, stated that Johnson & Johnson tried to hide its activities by using sham contracts, offshore companies, and slush funds. In the United States, these same kinds of activities have been uncovered whereby doctors have been paid cash kickbacks to prescribe prescription drugs against the interests of the patient, of you. Now, here's the deal. This is what you got to know, is that sometimes it's cash, sometimes it's a trip, sometimes it's an invitation to a seminar in a very nice place, but it happens in all shapes and forms. And unless you're aware that you're being handled that you're being duped, you're being manipulated, and you're willing to step up and take control of your own life, particularly with Obamacare going into full effect within about a year. Listen, guys, I'm telling you, it's affecting us across the board. You must be proactive. If you're not willing to be proactive, then you're going to be at the butt end of this thing, and your health and your life is what's really at risk. Welcome back. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. I'm here at 888-630-9625. That's 888-630-WMAL. Love to talk to you. Any subject you have in your mind. We're talking about all kinds of things that ought to make you stand up and say, hey, I got an issue here, and maybe I should be questioning everything that's told to me. I tell my patients, look, here's the deal. When anybody tells you anything, including me, ask questions. Do your own research, compare it, see if it makes sense, use the old measuring stick. If it doesn't make sense, it probably isn't right. It just, is that way. Do you really think that your body's deficiencies are going to be fixed by putting a medication in? When I sit down with a patient on the second time I see them in the office, I take them through a process and show them the three things that cause anything: structural, chemical, emotional stresses. Structural meaning injury, chemical meaning all those things that affect your body from the outside, biochemistry, exogenous poisons, xenoestrogens, and then third is stress. So if those things are the cause of all things, meaning cancer and liver function problems and allergy reactions and so forth, wouldn't it be best if you stepped up and took control of what you can take control of? Exercise, dietary patterns, learning how to handle your emotions. Life would get a whole lot better, my opinion. I see things turn around. Let's go to the phones. Patty, how can I help you?
Dr. Roselle, thanks for all the really neat things you do. This past week, my husband was diagnosed with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, and he is really pretty much asymptomatic except for a dry cough, which has got me, I nagged him to go and get a chest x-ray, and then he's had a CT scan. And this week we saw a pulmonologist, and that's the diagnosis, which is scary as, hell, because the doctor seems like a wonderful man and a good pulmonologist, but he sat there in his office and he said 3 years, which...
How old is your husband?
69.
Okay.
In excellent health with amazing stamina. Still was retired, went back to work because he was too antsy. Doctor said, can you climb 2 flights of stairs without getting winded? And this man could climb. Actually, he just climbed in Georgetown, the steps in Georgetown. He just did that about a month ago. So
what you're telling me is your physician, how did he come about diagnosing the condition? I mean, what was the complaint?
The complaint, the presenting problem was a dry cough.
And that was it?
That was it. Absolutely, that was it. Went and had an X-ray. X-ray, I guess, showed some things. The primary care physician sent him for a CT scan, and the CT scan showed chronic interstitial lung disease.
Okay, is it throughout the whole lung, or is it just isolated in certain areas?
It's in the bottom part of the lung,
okay.
The left more than the right.
All right, is your husband on any medications?
Blood pressure only.
All right. Let me give you my opinion.
Yes.
And I'm going to start by saying this. If your husband is in that good shape and he's able to go and do on his own, the physician, I think, is being a little overzealous in telling you that he's only got 3 years.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all the blood work. I haven't seen, the X-rays. I haven't seen any of that. But the fact that your husband can do that, the body is extremely forgiving, and I've seen many cases over the years where a patient has one of the many different types of fibrosis of the lungs, and they've presented with back pain, or they've had chest and shoulder pain, or any of those things. And what I do know and what I have seen is that minimally, the process of breakdown can be dramatically slowed down, and it can be slowed down with diet and acupuncture and making sure the nervous system is working the way it's supposed to, and making sure all of the nutrients in the body are at a maximum level. The body is extremely forgiving. It's meant and it's designed to repair itself continually. And to the extent that we support that, things change. To the extent that we ignore that. Now, when he's on a blood pressure medication, depending on the medication, there's a lot of side effects, and you have to look at those things as well. You have to be very careful. There's not a drug out there. There isn't one that exists that doesn't have some sort of side consequence. So, again, I can't be specific, but you're going to use antioxidants. You want to change your husband's diet so it's extremely alkaline. You want to get rid of the things that will cause free radical damage, sugar, sodas, coffee, teas, fast food, fried foods, alcohol, gluten, additives, preservatives. And you want to, get hydrocarbon damage out in the form of heavy red meats and so forth. There's ways of dealing with this, and that I think can be quite significant. But again, I'd have to see more information. So, Patty, don't lose hope. I mean, there's lots that can be done. If we can be of help,
I think you can be, and we've got your phone number. And wow, God bless you. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Take care of yourself.
Thanks. Bye.
Sandy, how can I help you?
Yes, I've got arthritis in my right foot, and it's swelling, and I can't seem to get the swelling completely down or gone. I went to a podiatrist about a month ago, and he did the x-ray, and he said that's what I had in that foot.
When did it start?
I've been dealing with it about 2 or 3 months now, actually.
Okay.
And I thought I had some kind of stress fracture in there. That's why I went to the podiatrist.
Have you ever hurt that foot before, or that leg on that side?
Yes, I had a very, when I was a teenager, I twisted it, and it was black and blue.
Okay, so let me give you some application here. First of all, arthritis, if you have it in a joint space, generally, particularly in your foot, unless it comes from injury, as you said, there may have been injury years ago, usually is going to be in both areas. But the swelling that you're experiencing probably is not due to the arthritis. It has to be due to lymphatic damage or incapacity or insufficiency on that side. So you can't just say, okay, you have arthritis, because if you have arthritis in your wrist, if you have arthritis in your shoulder, then those joint spaces are going to swell. It's not going to just be your foot. So what you have to do is you have to look at the lymphatic chain all the way through that side of the body. You're going to look at the lymphatic chain as it comes up into the armpit. There's something called a portal duct, which all the lymph drains into the chest and then into the intestinal tract and then the kidneys to be gotten rid of. But what's happening, anytime you have swelling low in the body, it's called dependent swelling, and it's because the body can't return the circulation further up. There may be localized reasons for swelling, acute injury, something that happens right away, or a chronic pain pattern that is irritating the tissue at that level. But the fact that you had this injury a long time ago and only the swelling started within the last 2 to 3 months suggests to me that there's something else there. And
yeah, I've noticed that, like, the one, how sometimes you can just massage things and it'll feel better.
Correct.
But like next to the toe that's, you have your pinky and then the next toe over.
Right.
It seems like if I just rub on that, that's where the pain seems to be, in that one toe area around that.
Sandy, what that is, that's where the gallbladder meridian ends. Okay? The gallbladder meridian starts on the outside canthus of your eye, and then it goes all the way down over the back of the head, down and through the body, and then it ends on that toe specifically. And it's not unusual for when something is functionally not working with that organ system or the energy field, for an area that's associated with it to swell, get larger. For example, your big toe, the inside portion of the toenail on the big toe, is the beginning point for the liver meridian. And when the liver meridian is irritated because the liver's congested, or somebody's drinking too much alcohol, they're eating too much junk, or they're taking medications that affect the liver, pretty soon you can end up with something called gout. And gout generally, not always, affects the big toe first. And the reason it affects the big toe first is that that's where the acupuncture channel, the meridian, starts. So in your situation, you're telling me you rub that second toe in and you get some relief. To me...
No, I don't. It actually
you don't.
makes it feel...
Does it make it worse?
Yeah, it feels,
okay.
It just irritates it more than relieves it.
Same thing, worse or better. You're in an area that's causing a problem, or you're in an area that's fixing a problem. It tells you that the problem is associated with that. So you have to look further. You'd have to find out what's really going on there. I would, if you were my patient, what I would do is I would be checking your dietary history. I would be checking any of the electrical fields, meaning the nervous system and the acupuncture system that was going to that. I would check the area for what we call injury recall, meaning that your body's like a computer sometimes, and that when you have old injury like you did years ago, your body tries to protect you by keeping it in a place where it's not going to be constantly irritated. So you have to bring it back up, and there's ways of doing that neurologically and in the acupuncture system, like bringing it up on a computer screen so you can actually fix it. And then the problem often resolves itself. But there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle here. It's a lymphatic stagnation that is a result of something else. It is doubtful to me by what you're telling me, because it started just a couple months ago, that it is unilaterally an arthritic problem. So if I can be of further help, Sandy, send me a note at rosellecare.com. And I'll be more than happy to, give you some more suggestions. Or alternatively, if we can help you in any way, please, just, let us know. We'll be more than happy to do that. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. 888-630-9625. That's 888-630-WMAL. Love to talk to you on any subject you have in mind. We're going to try to take as many of your calls today. Make sure you give us a jingling. And if you can't get me on the air, how you get a hold of us off the air is by going to rosellecare.com and send us a note. And like I said before, earlier in the program, go to roseleradio.com, and all of our programs are starting to be cataloged there for you, as well as video versions. And we're going to post some very interesting video clips of specific topics for you that have nothing to do with the show as well. So, and then go to rosellecare.com and stay up, stay educated, stay with us, and we're going to try to do as much as we possibly can to help you help yourself, because that's what it's really all about. It's about making sure that you have the capacity. Being Mediterranean and having eaten basically Mediterranean foods, my favorite, whether it's Greek or Italian or even Lebanese food and Turkish and so forth, my health, when I eat well, has stayed, fantastic over the years. I don't take medications of any kind. I've never been on medications. I think probably in the last 35 years or so, I've probably had one course of antibiotic therapy because I had a very severe bone infection that took place because of airplane pressures and things of that nature. But that's it. I don't need that stuff. I exercise well and I do all the things I need to do. But when it comes down to food, you really have to understand what the chemistries are. Interesting article on olive leaves. Olive leaves, those things that sometimes you go to a Greek restaurant and they put the rice in and put other meats and so forth, and they roll it. Well, olive leaves is really, really excellent in controlling high blood pressure. And there's an olive leaf extract. So one of the things that a lot of people won't try is food. So let's shift our diet for a minute. The olive fruit, is the core constituent of many Mediterranean diets. And when you survey old culture dietary patterns from the Mediterranean, you begin to see, now and I'm talking about modified and updated new stuff, because you might as well eat in New York City or Washington because it's all same garbage. But when you go there and you go into the villages, you go into my father's village, you go some of the other places, it's a whole different deal. Broad-spectrum health benefits of Mediterranean diet are well documented, and it's all over the literature. Now, we're talking about the olive fruit. The olive fruit has huge beneficial effects in many different compounds that work specifically to do extraordinary things in the body, but particularly on high blood pressure. There's something called aleunoproene, and it's found in high concentrations in the olive leaf. And this is largely responsible for the beneficial effects of the olive leaf on high blood pressure. So what can you do? You're going to go out and get a whole bunch of olive leaves and kind of, eat them? Well, you can do that or make it part of your main diet. or you can get olive leaf extract, and you can go to a lot of the health food stores. They have it. And what they do is they relax the arterial walls. They make them more pliable. Also, the heart becomes more functional. And these are things that have been known anecdotally for many years, meaning that these people do X, Y, and Z, and they don't have the problems that many of us have. Let's go to the phones. Brian, how can I help you?
Hi. I'm outside in high humidity.
Brian, I can't hear you. It sounds like you're talking to me in a tunnel. Give me a call. Hang up, call again, and I'll take your call back again. 888-630-9625. When you call in, folks, try probably stay off the speakerphones, because sometimes if you get a feedback loop, then it sounds like you're in a tunnel with a lot of water, and it doesn't come across the speakers very, very well. Let's talk a little bit more about olive leaves for a second or two, because I want you to understand that there's things that you can do to make a difference. If you use olive leaf extract, if you use things like magnesium, if you use things like vitamin B6, these things work well to relaxing arterial walls, the arteries, and they make a huge difference, obviously, in how effective and how efficient you are at pumping blood throughout the system. A lot of laboratory studies that have been done with these compounds, particularly the olive leaf that we're talking about, and it helps generate what's called nitric oxide, which we know today to work extremely well as a blood vessel dilator. And so it suggests that the olive leaf extract may lower blood pressure in all of us. And, having identified this property, scientists have been very quick to apply it across the board. Well, my rule of thumb is that nothing works always for everybody, but when you put it together with other components, when you put it together with things that are known to work, life changes. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. You've been listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. I'm here at 888-630-WMAL, as we are every Sunday at 12 noon. Don't forget to listen in. And also go to RoselleRadio.com and listen again, and tell your friends to go and listen to the programs. If you'd like to reach us offline, RoselleCare.com. Fred, how can I help you? Thank you for calling.
Hi, Doctor. I get bombarded with these junk mails that want me to sign up for a health newsletter. But one of them caught my interest. It says, the simple mineral that lowers diabetes risk, and a well-loved spice that slashes blood sugar.
Okay, there's a lot of things that, and I'm totally familiar with what's out there, but it goes back years, and there's a lot of truth to what's being said, but they like to market it so they can sell you something.
Right.
Cinnamon, garlic, turmeric, things like ginger and nutmeg and basil, oregano, bay leaf, curry, all of those things will help bring down your blood pressure, and they've been around for ever, and they're part of Mediterranean dietary patterns. And they also increase your insulin sensitivity. That means that the tissue becomes more sensitive to the transport of insulin, grabbing blood sugar into the body and making it work better. That's why it helps diabetes. Now, if you combine a decent diet and get rid of the junk and walk every day, and you did nothing more than that, I promise you your diabetic situation or insulin sensitivity will dramatically change.
What about the mineral that they say?
Well, you're going to have to throw it up there. There is no one mineral. If you get any mineral that is alkalinizing, shifts the body from acidic to alkaline, and all minerals do that.
Well, this particular one cites a University of North Carolina Chapel Hill 20-year study.
But what's the mineral?
It doesn't say.
So yeah, they're trying to sell you something.
That's right. They're trying to get you to subscribe.
Yeah. And they're trying to sell it. Fred, I'm sorry, but if I can't. It's like patients come in and say, "What do I think about this product?" Unless I know what's in it, I can't tell you.
May I make a suggestion, Doctor?
Sir.
Have you considered sending out a newsletter by email, a recap of your shows to people who want them?
Well, if you go into Roselle Radio, you'll be able to find that. Fred, we're coming up to the end of the program.
Thank you, Doctor.
Talk to you soon.
Everything you do.
This is Dr. Tom Roselle. We're here every Sunday for your education and empowering you to do what you need to do to save your life. See you next week. Bye.